The Constitution of India. Preamble. We, the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic and to secure to all its citizens justice, social, economic and political, liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith and worship, equality of status and of opportunity, and to promote among them all fraternity, assuring the dignity of the individual and the unity and integrity of the nation. In our Constituent Assembly, this 26th day of November 1949, do hereby adopt, enact and give to ourselves this Constitution.
Happy morning, students. I know you all are again doing good, as there's nothing to ask you, as that I couldn't see you personally. And see, we have come to the fourth chapter, the last part of the fourth chapter, and almost these 4 chapters have got a lot of problems in that, and I told you once this gets over, we'll be having a class specially exclusively for the problems. So definitely we'll be doing that, and I'm happy that some of you called me and was sharing about your revaluation result, and also prepare well for your improvement, children, because it's very important. Your +1 marks, it carries a lot of value for you. And one thing that is disappointing is some of the children have not even given the homework till now. I informed your class teacher also, right? Very few are sending, very few, that too. Some of you are not aware of what is happening, I believe, but I am going to do a video call surprisingly without informing you, because I want to know what is the status of you in chemistry. Okay. So now, last class we were dealing with integrated rate equations, that is, we were doing integration for the differential rate equation for 0 order, first order. Also we were learning about half-life period of a reaction and pseudo first order reaction. Remember, children? Yes. So today's topic, what we are going to deal with is temperature dependence of rate of reaction. Temperature, this factor was quite an important factor which played a very vital role in the rate of reaction, because we have been studying about the temperature factor right from our 10th standard. What is the role of temperature? Directly or indirectly, we know that temperature has got a significant role in the rate of reaction. Let me give you an example. Like when I take a cold water and when I add some sugar, you know, it takes a lot of time for me to stir the sugar so that it dissolves completely. It becomes miscible, right? That I see it as a solution. I don't see any sugar particle. But you know, if I am going to take a hot water, or your mom when she prepares tea, she just put the sugar and she need not stir also. What happens? The sugar dissolves immediately. What could be the reason? A normal water at room temperature takes some time for the solute particles to get dissolved, that is, the reaction takes place little slowly. But the same sugar, if I am going to dissolve in hot water, it takes very less time for the sugar to get dissolved or to mix up with the solvent. The reason is a simple factor, that is temperature. An increase in temperature, or when it is heated up, what happens? The energy of the molecules is increasing. This increase in energy of the molecules plays a very important role for the reaction to occur at a faster rate. So I would say the temperature plays a very important role in the rate of reaction, or in other words, rate of reaction is dependent on the temperature. Now, this is an example which I have written. Dinitrogen pentoxide gives N2O4 and releases oxygen. Now there are 3 different temperatures I have written, that is at 50 degrees what happens, at 25 degrees what happens, and at 0 degrees what happens. Now if you see children, at 50 degrees, T half, that is half period of a reaction. What is half period of a reaction? That is half of the reaction. The reaction has started and reached at the middle of the state. At T half, it will be 12 minutes. That is, at 50 degrees, the reaction to reach half of its state of reaction, it is 12 minutes. It takes 12 minutes for the reaction to reach half life period. When I decrease the temperature, when I make it 25 degrees, it takes 5 hours. The same reactant takes 5 hours to reach half life period. Now again you imagine that at 0 degrees Celsius, absolutely 0 degrees Celsius, what is going to happen? The same reactant will take around 10 days. It takes around 10 days for the reactant to reach half life period. Now what do you understand from this? As there is a decrease in temperature, what is happening here? The time, the rate of reaction is also decreasing. It is taking so much time for the reaction to occur. Even the half life is taking so much time. So imagine the full reaction at time t. So what do you understand from this? The rate of reaction can be increased only by increasing the temperature. So as the temperature increases, the rate of reaction also increases. So this is what we understand by the temperature dependence factor. Now we are going to study in detail how temperature dependence play a role in the rate of reaction. Another example was KMNO4 and oxalic acid. We used to do volumetric analysis, but unfortunately because of this present situation, we are not doing any titrations. We used to do normal titrations with HCl and sodium hydroxide, and also permanganometry, where we use potassium permanganate titrated with oxalic acid. If you see children, some of the titrations will happen without heating. There will be a discoloration, a color change in the component, and you can easily identify the end point. But the reaction between KMNO4 and oxalic acid will occur only with heating. I must heat the substance so that the titration happens effectively and there is a color change in the component. So again, a temperature plays a very important role, the reaction becomes faster. Otherwise, there is no discoloration. So what is the resolution? What is the solution that we have learned is that for any chemical reaction with rise in temperature by 10, if I increase the temperature by 10, right, this is my, say I have 20, if I am going to increase by 10 the temperature, what is going to happen? My rate constant is nearly doubled. My rate constant value becomes double with every 10 degree rise in temperature. So how will I say? The rate constant of the reaction gets doubled with every 10 degree rise in temperature, or I can say with every 10 degree rise in temperature, the rate constant becomes doubled. Now how do you infer that? Temperature dependence was studied by various scientists. Now what did they do is, just like with maximum experiments and laboratory methods and all, they tried to verify how temperature was playing an effective role. So then they came two scientists where Van't Hoff, you have studied about Van't Hoff in the last chapter, you remember, second chapter, Van't Hoff factor I, right? So this Van't Hoff scientist also studied about temperature dependence, but Arrhenius was the one who gave a mathematical expression. That is, he was able to give a verified equation of the temperature dependence, and this is called as Arrhenius equation. It comes in 1 mark question for you. For 2 marks, it comes with the expression and also to write about the various variables, factors here. So it's a definite question for the board exam, children. What is Arrhenius equation? What is Arrhenius equation? K is equal to A into E. This is my exponential factor E raised to the power of minus EA by RT. I repeat, K is equal to A into E power minus EA by RT. Now what is K? K we know it's a rate constant, K. What is A? This is most important, which is called as Arrhenius factor, frequency factor or pre-exponential factor. Now why it is called pre-exponential factor? Because E is my exponential factor here, A is present before E. So it is also called as pre-exponential factor. What is R? It's a universal gas constant. EA is called as my activation energy. That's a new term which we are going to learn. I'll be explaining to you very soon. So EA is the activation energy and T is the temperature. So when it's been asked what is an Arrhenius equation, we'll be writing K is equal to AE power minus EA by RT and write what all the different variables stands for. Now we know about temperature, we know what is a rate constant, we know what is a gas constant. Now Arrhenius factor A value will be constant, does not change. Okay. Now what is my EA? Something which is again important for a rate of reaction, which is called as an activation energy. Now we will learn what is activation energy. 2 combines with I2 to form 2HI. This is the reaction that is happening. Now we know there is a bond between 2 hydrogen atoms, there is a bond between 2 hydrogen iodine atoms, and what happens, this is my intermediate, and then the product what I get is each hydrogen combines with an iodine and forms 2 molecules of HI. Now how this is happening? Now let me just tell you. Now let's assume Shobit and Advait are playing in a park. Okay. Hafiz and Hashim are playing in another park. So there is a bond between Hashim is having joining his hands together. Hafiz is also joining his hands together. Likewise Shobit and Advait also. But assume what happens, all the 4 they come to the park to play. At that time, those 2 friends, they don't know the other 2. But they liked everybody, they liked each other. So what they did is, Shobit, after joining Advait's hand, just wanted to make a friendship with Hafiz also. Similarly, Hashim also wanted to join with Shobit or Advait. So what happens is that, let's assume Hashim and Hafiz are iodine, Shobit and Advait are hydrogen bond. So these Shobit and Advait now slowly left their hands, made a new friendship. So they joined with, Shobit joined with Hafiz and Advait joined with Hashim. So these 2 bonds slowly they started breaking, and then they temporarily they formed an intermediate bond, all of them joining their hands together. Then they realized that they liked the new friendship. So what happened, this bond completely starts breaking and you get a new bond formation. Such type of reaction happens in chemistry. These are the reactions that actually happens. Any bond is broken, a new bond is formed. If a bond has to be formed, some old bonds have to be broken, right? So this is what is a chemical reaction. But why this is happening? There should be something that is causing this to happen. Now let's assume, children, I have a candle. Okay, I have a candle. I have a matchstick. I know my matchstick has got phosphorus on its top and I have oxygen everywhere. Candle is there. Candle's wick is ready to get flamed. If I take this matchstick closer to my wick of the candle, enough oxygen is there. Will my candle burn? Or should my candle burn? Tell me, children, whether this will happen? No, it will not happen. Though we know oxygen supports burning, supports combustion, but this will not happen, absolutely not possible. But what should be that should make this candle burn or light is, I should rub this matchstick against that matchbox, right? There should be small friction, small energy that should be generated so that this candle can burn or can be lighted. that energy, that is the minimum energy required by the reactant molecules to sufficiently break the bond and form the product, is called as activation energy. What is activation energy? What is activating means? You put your SIM in your new mobile and you try to activate, or you get a new ATM card, you go to ATM, you activate the pin. What do you mean by activation? Something that is required for the initial startup is called as activation. So here we are going to talk about activation energy of what? Of reactants. Now how does it happen? See, here you can see hydrogen and iodine are here, right? They both try to react with each other, they reach a particular state, they gain some energy, minimum energy, which we call it as activation energy. So this place at the peak, they form a complex, which we call it as an intermediate activated complex. They form a complex. After some time, they slowly come down, the energy starts decreasing, they attain a lower energy level, and then what happens? They reach the product. You can see two hydrogen iodide formed just below our reactant state. Now why they form at the lower energy level? In thermodynamics, we have come across a term called stability. What do you mean by stability? Something that is more stable, powerful. Stability will be accounted directly to the lower energy state of the molecule. So here my reactants are here. Reactants at a higher energy level, they rise up, reach the activation energy, they come down and then they reach the product. So here the reactant level and here is my product level, right? So you can see here I have drawn dotted lines and here also. Now this energy difference between my reactant and the product will be giving the enthalpy change, del H. What is enthalpy change? The energy change between the product and the reactant. The reactant is higher. After getting the activation energy, they reach a complex state and from there they try to come down to the product level. So this difference we call it as an enthalpy. And the graph is actually pointed between what? The energy level and the reaction coordinate. What do you mean by reaction coordinate, children? Reaction coordinate means it is giving us the whole energy change that is happening during the process of the reaction. Along the x-axis, I can see what all the energy changes that are happening during the course of reaction when the reactants are reacting to become my products. Okay, so this peak is called as an activated complex. I can see the difference. You can see the difference between the reactant and the product, which is called as del H. Now this reaction is actually exothermic. What is exothermic? Releasing lot of energy. So whenever there is a release of lot of energy, actually the energy of my reactants will always be higher and the products will be lower. How this will change? When it is an endothermic reaction. For an endothermic reaction, the energy of product will always be higher than that of my reactant. But here in chemical kinetics, we are not bothered about it, about endo or exo. We are just worried about our activation energy and the temperature factor. I hope you are able to follow this, children. Now I told you there are molecules that are reacting to give my products. But do you think there is only one molecule reacting? No, when I say 1 mole molecule, you know how many grams are present. There are so many molecules which are reacting. We know it has to collide with each other. So after reacting with each other only they give my product. But for this molecule to react, we know there should be some minimum energy which is called as activation energy. Apart from this activation energy, every molecule will be possessing some kinetic energy or some energy with them. But you know that energy will not be the same for every molecule present as reactants. Please understand, children, I have reactants on my left hand side. Those reactants will possess some energy with them, but the energy of all the reacting molecules will not be the same. Each molecule will have different energy level. Now let me give you an example. Now assume that I have kept some water on the gas stove to boil. Water I have kept in the gas stove to boil. Assume all my water molecules are having the same energy level. The moment I kept in the gas stove, tap tap tap, I should see vapors coming out, boiling. Water boils at 100 degrees. If all the molecules are having the same energy level, the moment I kept it, tap, I could see boils, vapors forming and it's gone. Does it happen? Not at all. How does water boil? We know once you keep water on the gas stove, slowly it will form circles, slowly you will see bubbles starting from the bottom and then rise up at the top. Those bubbles will just rise up and form vapors. Do you see that, children? Yes, because we know not all the molecules are having the same energy level. The molecules at the surface will be having higher energy, that's why they tend to escape as vapors. This is what is exactly happening when molecules are reacting. So, what I want to tell you is, so when the scientists, when they were studying about the reacting molecules, their energy level with temperature, they came to know that you are not supposed to take the total number of molecules or an individual molecule. Instead, we should take fraction of molecules. What do you mean by fraction of molecules? Ne by Nt, where Ne represents the number of molecules with energy E, that is a particular energy having with respect to the total number of molecules. Now how would I say that? Let's assume that all the 12th A children are taken out and there is a running race kept for you, 100 meters running race. Or say 200 meters running race, and it is compulsory that everybody should run. Nobody can say that sorry I can't. No excuse will be given. Everybody, all the 46 children should participate in the running race. Now what happens? Do you think all of them will run at the same pace? No. The moment we whistle, Akshaya Mohanan would have reached there at the end, right? Because she is a sprinter, she would have reached. Boys also. But you know, there are some children who can run very fast and reach the end. There are some children, some group of children which will run at a moderate speed. Some children which will run very slowly. Some children who cannot run at all. They still keep on walking. They don't bother what is happening. Right? So that is what is explained in the graph by the scientist Maxwell and Boltzmann. There were two scientists who explained this graph. What did they say is that when I take the fraction number of molecules on my y-axis, kinetic energy on my x-axis, now what happens? Now this is the point I can see these many children has got this energy, and at this point this fraction of children has got this energy. Like that, this fraction has got this energy. I can point out. And you can see a peak there. That is a peak where you have the most probable kinetic energy. The peak at which the fraction of children have got the highest kinetic energy by some children, and that will be always very less, very less. Always you will see there will be a moderate rate of children who will be more. Anything that you take, the middle level will be a maximum percentage of children contributing to the middle level. So that is what is given by Maxwell and Boltzmann. When I take the fraction number of molecules, each point will explain me the fraction of molecules having a particular kinetic energy, right? After that, he was also pointing out that as we said, for a chemical reaction, an increase in temperature by 10 degrees will make the rate constant double. Now how does it imply when we put a graph? So what he studied, that he was drawing a graph with fraction of molecules and kinetic energy. Thereby he came to know that the first graph T, you can see, was with temperature. There were a particular fraction of molecules reaching the product. But at that time you can see only very less activation energy, very less number of molecules having an activation energy. It was only this much. I can say that is only this much. But when temperature was increased to a 10 degrees Celsius, you can see though the graph is not reaching a high peak, it could at least go to a higher level where the fraction of the reacting molecules is actually doubled. If this is my T, this became my T plus 10. You can see the difference, it has become double. That is what we said, as the temperature increases, the rate constant increases. So, the EA becomes double when there is an increase of temperature by 10 degrees Celsius, and as the length increases, you can see the height actually decreases, right. There is a difference between drawing like this, length is only this much, or the same thing like this, length becomes more, the height becomes less. So, that is what was the two graphs studied by the scientist Maxwell and Boltzmann about the temperature dependence. Now, using this equation, we are going to solve our Arrhenius equation in the logarithmic way. Let us see how that works on. Okay, now I told you we will be seeing the temperature by taking Arrhenius equation. So, we know K is equal to A e power minus EA by RT. Now, when you take log, what happens? Ln K, ln K will be equal to, now this is an exponential factor, so this will come down, which will be minus EA by RT ln A. A is constant for a given reaction. Now, we know Y is equal to mx plus C on equation of a straight line when you take, and if I am going to draw a graph with ln K and 1 by T, that is of temperature, what type of a graph I get? I get a straight line where my slope will be EA by R, because I have taken 1 by T on my x axis. So, EA by R will be my slope, and intercept, that is the point of joining, will be ln K, right. So, this will be my graph when I draw between ln K and 1 by T with respect to Arrhenius equation. Now, considering different temperature factors, let us not take only an equation at a particular temperature. Let us assume at temperature T1, what will happen to this equation, that is equation 2, it becomes ln K1 is equal to minus EA by RT1 ln A, and again at temperature T2, it becomes ln K2 is equal to minus EA by RT2 ln A. Where I know A is my constant, so when I am subtracting, that gets cancelled. So, if I am going to subtract these two equations, what do I get? ln K2 minus ln K1 is equal to, when I am going to subtract this and this, I get EA by RT1 minus EA by RT2, because minus sign is there. So, this minus this will become plus. So, I put RT1 at the beginning minus EA by RT2. Understand this equation, children, okay. So, we know when the negative sign is there, I can bring it as a denominator. So, ln K2 by K1 will be equal to, EA by R is common, so that will be taken out. I open a bracket, I put 1 by T1 minus 1 by T2. We know what is 1 by T1 minus 1 by T2, when you take LCM, it becomes T2 minus T1 by T1 T2. So, to remove this ln, I should multiply with 2.303. So, instead of writing 2.303 on my LHS, I take that as my denominator. So, log K2 by K1 will be EA by 2.303 R T2 minus T1 by T1 T2. Understood, children? You get questions in this also, where the values of temperature will be given to you, and you need to calculate the rate constant of any one of the equation. So, this is a very important derivation which comes in Arrhenius equation. Learn it, it is given in your textbook stepwise, right. So, I hope you understood temperature dependence. Now, we have two more topics left out. One is a role of a catalyst, and then is the collision theory. Both are very simple. So, let us get into role of a catalyst. When I say catalyst, we know catalysts are the substances which alter the rate of reaction. I can say we also studied about positive catalyst and negative catalyst, right. Positive catalysts are those which increases the rate of reaction, or I will say negative catalysts are those which decreases the rate of reaction. So, we know what is the role of a catalyst. Catalysts are substances which increases the rate of reaction actually. When something that reduces the rate of reaction, I am not supposed to call as a catalyst. Instead, I should call that as an inhibitor. Inhibits means prevents, reduce, stops, avoids, right? So inhibitors are those which reduces the rate of reaction. What is actually a catalyst doing? A catalyst do not take part in the reaction. They just play a role by forming temporary bonds with the reactants, and once the reaction proceeds and reaches the products, you get the catalyst back along with the products. Am I not right, children? That is what is happening, right? A catalyst role is something that it do not get itself consumed in the reaction. It actually forms temporary bonds with the reactants, and thereby the reaction is made faster so that the products are reached, and along with the products you get back the catalyst actually, right? What is actually it is doing when it forms a temporary bonds? By forming the temporary bonds and increasing the rate, it actually finds a separate pathway, bypass. We always have a bypass road, right? Normal road, you have a bypass road so that you reach that place very faster. So similarly, it creates an alternate pathway for the reactants so that the products can be achieved at a faster rate. Now you can see a graph here with potential energy and the reaction coordinate. What actually happens here? You can see the reactants, they reach the highest activation energy level and they form the product. So this is my activation energy. This much energy is required for the reactants so that it can combine or collide with each other and form my required product. But what happens? What is the state of the reactants if I am going to add a catalyst? If I add a catalyst, you can see a dotted lines where again my activation energy actually comes down. It is not this much, but it's actually this much. You can see I have drawn two different activation energy without catalyst and with catalyst. Actually, the reaction rate will be faster with lower activation energy. So whenever I use a catalyst, my activation energy becomes lower and faster will be my reaction. We also studied about Gibbs potential, Gibbs free energy. That is, del G should be negative for a reaction to be feasible or a reaction to be spontaneous. What is a spontaneous reaction? A spontaneous reactions are reactions which do not require an initial support. It takes place on its own. I say spontaneously. When I say Aishwarya come and deliver a Hindi speech, she comes and speaks immediately. She doesn't require a initiation. That is called as spontaneity. Mridula come and do a mimicry. She does it. It is all spontaneity. This catalyst always catalyzes spontaneous reaction. What does it mean? When a reaction is happening, say for example, Miduna is doing mimicry, I'll be the catalyst. What I do? I support her. I say, yes, 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 Miduna, you can do it. Yes, you can do better than this. It's possible. You can do it. You will. That, right? So that is the role of a catalyst, just increasing spontaneity. So catalyst always catalyzes spontaneous reaction, but that does not happen with non-spontaneous reaction. It does not have any role with non-spontaneous reaction. And this we have studied in 10th standard, if you remember, children. Role of a catalyst in Le-Chatelier's principle, it does not have any effect, because we have studied about temperature, concentration and pressure in Le-Chatelier's principle, right? Increase of temperature, decrease of temperature, all those. But what did we studied in catalyst? It does not have any impact, because when I say equilibrium, when I say reversible reactions, if a catalyst has a role towards a forward direction, the same role will be played by the catalyst on the backward direction also. What is the role of a catalyst? To make the reaction faster, or I would say to make the equilibrium state achieve faster. So the equilibrium state, whether it is in the forward direction or the backward direction, it should be the same. So the catalyst will play the same extent whether it is forward or it is backward. So that is the role of a catalyst on the rate of reaction. I hope you understood, children. Now we will get back into the last topic, which is collision theory. Okay. What is collision theory? Now collision you know, nothing but hitting each other, colliding with each other. We have studied this gas molecules, they collide with each other, the collisions are elastic, that is they don't lose or gain energy. So when I say collision theory, what is being given to us, what information do we get from this theory is that A and B are my reactants which combine together to give my product. So when I say they combine, nothing but they hit each other, they collide with each other, they react with each other, forming product. So I can give rate is equal to, which is my K is equal to ZAB, suffix I have put here AB, right, E power minus EA by RT, right. This is a subscript I have used, not suffix, by mistake I said AB is the subscript, AB. Now what is this Z? Z is my collision frequency with respect to my reactant A and B. Collision frequency, what do you mean by frequency? The number of collisions that can take place. So number of collisions per second per unit volume is my Z, which is for my reactants A and B, that will decide the rate of the reaction. We know EA is important, activation energy is important for the rate of reaction to occur. Similarly, the collision frequency is also important. Now, do all the collisions will give products? Can all the collisions give product? No, it is not necessary that the molecules whichever collide with each other should be giving me the product. It does not happen. Why? The molecules when they are colliding, they require some minimum energy. That we call it as threshold energy. Threshold energy means minimum kinetic energy should be required. If I have to take part in the competition, I should have some minimum potential to do that. Otherwise, can I take part in the competition? No, it is not possible. So, if a molecule has to react or hit each other to give my product, it should be possessing some minimum threshold energy. Then only that will lead for effective collision. What do you mean by effective collision? What is effective? Effective means something that is productive, something that is going to be giving me a good amount of product. What type of collisions? Collisions which involved breaking of bonds and formation of new bonds. That is, when the reactants are colliding with each other, they should be breaking their old bonds and they should be able to form some new bond. For that I required some minimum threshold energy. Then only that will be effective. I get my effective collision done. That's how I get my products formed. You are able to get me, children? So I will say threshold energy is very important, which will be yielding my collision frequency. Now let us take an example where methanol methyl bromide CH3Br is going to combine with OH hydroxide ion, where this should attack my carbon center because this is delta positive. So this bond has to break and this bond has to be formed. Now if they do not orient in the sense, if they do not have collide in a proper direction, I don't get my product formed. So apart from my activation energy, apart from my collision frequency, another important factor which decide the product formation is the proper orientation. I should sit properly, then only I can listen to my class. Or if I have to take the class, this is my orientation, this is the way I should stand and take. I cannot sleep and take the class for you. I cannot dance and take, right? There are some orientation necessary for the reactants to collide with each other so that the products are formed. So when I am going to take a reaction between my methyl bromide and OH hydroxide ion, if they orient in this direction, I don't get any product. This is the direction, but instead what is happening? OH comes and attacks the back side of the carbon. So this is the state where I'll show clearly, children. C is here, H is here, I have hydrogen. This bond is about to break and this bond is about to be formed. So there is a breaking of this bond and the formation of this new bond. That is what taking place in the second step, which will be yielding my product. properly, I get a sufficient amount of product, or I can say a product is formed in such a reaction where there is a proper orientation of the reactants. So further, how the reaction or the equation became, rate is equal to P Z A B e power minus E A by R T, where P is my orientation factor, probability factor, or I can say steric factor. Steric influence, steric means something which do not allow the molecule to come and attack. So the steric factor is very important. Then comes the collision frequency of AB, then exponential factor raised to the power of EA by RT. So this is the equation for our collision frequency or collision theory. So in this, what did we learn from temperature dependence or catalyst or collision theory? There are two important factors which decides the rate of reaction. One is my activation energy and next one is my steric factor, that is the orientation factor. With this, the chapter is getting over. Of course, when I say collision theory gives a lot of advantages, there are also disadvantages, because at certain time we don't get a proper yield of product because of disorientation, right? So chapter 4 is getting over, children. As I told you, the next 2 classes will be doing problems. I will solve the problems on the board one by one. You can copy it in your notebook as well when it's been explained in the class, which will be giving you a clear idea. If not at least 2 classes, in 1 class we'll try to do that, because the syllabus also has to be moved on. We have just completed 4 chapters. As of the first 4 chapters are only problem based. From the next chapter we will not have this much difficulty, right? If possible, I'll include a video in this which will be helping you to find out about the collision theory and temperature factor and catalyst role. Okay, so stay home, stay safe. See you in the next class. Take care, children. Bye.
Collision theory. The kinetic theory of gases gives us some very important insights into the behavior of particles of gases. According to this theory, all gases are composed of large number of atoms or molecules and are represented as hard spheres. The molecules are not closely packed. In fact, they are separated from each other by large distances. The molecules of a gas are in a state of constant motion. When the molecules move, they collide with each other and also with the walls of the container. So they continuously tend to change their direction of movement. These collisions result in reactions between the molecules. So, from the kinetic theory, we can infer that if the collision frequency is higher, the reaction rate would also increase. But this is not always so. Sometimes collisions occur, but reactions do not take place. Why does this happen? When do collisions result in a reaction? This question puzzled scientists for a long time, till scientists Max Strauss and William Lewis proposed the collision theory in 1916 and 1918. Let us learn more about this important theory that changed the way scientists understood reactions and their rates. We know that reactants must collide with each other to bring about changes in the form of a chemical reaction. The number of collisions per second per volume of the reaction mixture is called collision frequency. It is represented as Z. In case of gaseous reactions under ordinary conditions of temperature and pressure, the collision frequency of binary collisions were experimentally measured and found to be in an order of 10 to the power of 25 to 10 to the power of 28. With such a high rate of collision frequency, we expect that the probability of reactant molecules forming products also increases at a fast rate. But in reality, most chemical reactions are slow and are completed after a comparatively longer time. This is because collisions do not necessarily result in the formation of a product. So when do collisions result in product formation? Collisions form products only when they are effective. And for a collision to be effective, particles need to overcome some barriers that are specific to the reaction conditions. These barriers are of two kinds: energy barrier, orientation barrier. Let's look at each in detail. The energy barrier. Reactant molecules have different levels of kinetic energy because of their motion. Slow-moving molecules have low kinetic energy. When they collide with other molecules, nothing happens in terms of chemical change. Only the direction of motion of these molecules may change. Fast-moving molecules have higher kinetic energy. When they collide, it results in loosening or breaking of their bonds. The kinetic energy acquired during such collisions helps to build the required minimum energy to bring about a chemical change. Consequently, two molecules combine together to form a new product. This minimum energy, which is required by reactant molecules to form products by effective collisions, is called as threshold energy. The extra energy which the reacting molecules acquire so that they attain the threshold energy for a chemical reaction is called activation energy. It helps the reacting molecules to overcome the energy barrier to form new products. Molecules possessing energy less than that of the threshold energy undergo collisions which are ineffective. The behavior of a large number of molecules was predicted with the help of statistics by Ludwig Boltzmann and James Clerk Maxwell. This data can be diagrammatically represented with the help of a graph. The energy of molecules is plotted along the x-axis, while the fraction of molecules is plotted along the y-axis. From the graph, it is very clear that the fraction of molecules that have very low or very high energy is less. The number of molecules that have intermediate kinetic energy is the maximum. It is the most probable level of kinetic energy. The minimum or the threshold energy, which is required for effective collisions, is represented by the letter ETH in the graph. Only molecules that possess energy equal to or greater than ETH will form products. The orientation barrier. While in motion, the molecules approach each other at different alignments. If the molecules collide with a suitable alignment, then new bonds can be formed. This results in the formation of a new product. On the other hand, if the molecules that are colliding with each other do not have a proper alignment with respect to each other, then new bonds cannot be formed, and the molecules just bounce back without any product formation. Thus, only proper orientation of molecules results in the formation of a new product.